Marcus Chen stood in his dirty workshop and wiped the black grease off his hands with an old rag. The smell of oil and metal filled the air around him. His small repair shop sat on the edge of Kepler Station, far from the busy main docks where rich traders brought their fancy ships. A loud crash made him look up. Through the grimy window he saw a ship landing badly on his repair pad. Smoke came from its engines and sparks flew from broken parts. The ship was strange looking. It had smooth curves like a living thing instead of the hard edges most ships had. Green and blue lights pulsed under its skin like a heartbeat. The ship door opened with a wet sound. 7 tall aliens walked out. They looked like giant bugs but walked on 2 legs like people. Their skin was hard and shiny like beetle shells. It changed colors in the light from green to purple to gold. Their big round eyes had many parts like fly eyes but much bigger. The tallest alien walked toward Marcus. A small box on her chest made buzzing sounds, then spoke in broken English. Human Marcus Chen. We need help. Our ship is very sick. Marcus had seen many types of aliens in his 20 years fixing ships. These were Zephyrians. Most people thought they were strange and scary. Their ships used living parts instead of normal metal and circuits. Other mechanics would not work on Zephyrian ships because they did not understand the living technology. What's wrong with it? Marcus asked. He walked closer to look at their ship. Up close he could see that parts of it were turning gray and black like dying plants. The alien leader made clicking sounds with her mouth. The translator box worked hard to change her words to English. Our big ship broke down 3 star systems away. 50,000 of our people wait there. They cannot leave. Our world is dying. We must find new home, but our ship will not work. She pointed at her smaller ship. This ship is also getting sick. We asked many repair shops for help. They say no. They say our money is no good. They say our ships are too old and strange. You, our last hope. Marcus walked around their ship. He had never seen anything like it before. The outside felt warm like skin. When he put his hand on it, he could feel it moving slightly, like it was breathing. Small tubes ran under the surface carrying glowing liquid like blood. What can you pay me with? Marcus asked. He was not mean, but he needed to eat and pay for his shop. The Zephyrian leader looked sad. Her colors changed to darker shades. We have raw metals from our old world, pure crystal formations, rare earth elements, but no standard credits. No one wants our materials. Marcus knew she was telling the truth. Refugee aliens often had valuable things, but no real money that banks would take. Most shop owners turned them away. It was easier to work on normal ships, from rich customers. He looked at the dying ship again. Other mechanics saw old junk that was too much trouble to fix, but Marcus saw something amazing. The ship was not just a machine, it was alive in a way. The technology was not primitive like others said. It was so advanced that it seemed like magic. The ship's living circuits could heal themselves if they were healthy. The organic computers could think and solve problems in ways metal computers could not. The bioengines could run for years without breaking down. This was not old technology. This was technology from the future that others were too afraid to understand. How long do your people have? Marcus asked. Maybe 2 months before life support fails completely, the leader said. Our colony ship was built to last forever, but age and damage have made it weak. If we cannot fix it soon, 50,000 Zephyrians will die in space. Marcus thought about his empty bank account and the bills he needed to pay. He thought about the safe, easy work he could do on normal ships. Then he looked at the alien woman's face. Even though she looked like a bug, he could see fear and hope in her big eyes. I'll need to see inside your ship first, he said, to understand how bad the damage is. The Zephyrian leader's colors brightened. You will help us? I'll look, Marcus said. No promises yet. She led him into the ship through the wet opening. Inside was like being in the belly of a giant animal. The walls moved slowly like they were breathing. Soft lights ran through clear tubes like veins. The air smelled sweet like flowers. This is our ship's heart, she said, pointing to a large, round room. In the center was a mass of twisted organic tubes and glowing pods. It pulsed with light, but the rhythm was slow and weak. Marcus had never seen anything so beautiful and strange. The ship's brain was made of living tissue that could think. Its nervous system was grown, not built. Every part was connected to every other part, like a real body. But he could see the problems too. Many of the organic circuits were turning black and dying. Some of the thinking pods had stopped glowing. The ship's life force was fading away slowly. "Your ship is not just broken," Marcus said quietly. "It's dying." The alien leader nodded sadly. "We know. Question is, can you save it?" Marcus looked around the living ship one more time. Every smart business person would say no. The work would take weeks or months. He might not even be able to fix it, and the aliens could not pay him real money. But something inside Marcus made him want to try. Maybe it was the challenge of working on something no human had ever fixed before. Maybe it was the thought of 50,000 aliens dying alone in space. Or maybe it was just that the ship was too amazing to let die. "I'll need detailed scans of your big ship too," Marcus said. "And I'll need some of your people to stay and teach me how your living technology works." The Zephyrian leader's whole body changed to bright gold colors. "You will help us?" Marcus nodded. "I'll try, but I cannot promise anything. This is beyond anything I have ever done before." As the aliens celebrated in their clicking language, Marcus wondered if he was making a huge mistake. He had no idea that saving this one ship would change his whole life forever. Marcus woke up every morning for 3 weeks with the same routine. He would drink his coffee, walk to his workshop, and spend the next 16 hours learning things that hurt his brain. The Zephyrian ship was unlike anything humans had ever built. Captain Veltar and 3 of her crew stayed to help him. At first, Marcus could barely understand what they were trying to teach him. The Zephyrians did not build their ships. They grew them like farmers grew plants. Every wire was actually a nerve. Every computer chip was a living brain cell made bigger. "Your people cut metal and force it into shapes," Veltar explained through her translator. "We plant seeds and guide growth. Ship becomes alive. Ship thinks. Ship feels." Marcus spent his first week just watching. The Zephyrians would put their hands on different parts of the ship and somehow talk to it without words. They could feel where it hurt and what it needed. When Marcus tried the same thing, he felt nothing but warm metal. "I cannot hear it," Marcus said with frustration. "How do you know what the ship is thinking?" Veltar's colors shifted to patient blue. "You listen with wrong part of mind. Ship speaks through feeling, not words. Try again, but do not think. Just feel." Marcus tried for hours every day. He put his hands on the ship's walls and tried to empty his mind. Most of the time he felt nothing, but sometimes, just for a second, he thought he could sense something. A tired sadness that seemed to come from the ship itself. The real work was even harder. The ship's organic circuits had to be regrown cell by cell. Marcus had to learn to mix chemical nutrients that would feed the growing tissue. He had to keep the temperature and humidity perfect or the new growth would die. But Marcus was good at learning. He had always been able to understand how machines worked by taking them apart and putting them back together. Living machines were different, but the basic ideas were the same. Every part had a job. Every system needed to work with other systems. He started mixing human engineering with Zephyrian biotechnology. When the organic circuits grew too slowly, he built synthetic helper systems to support them. When the ship's immune system attacked new tissue, he created buffer zones using human materials that both sides would accept. "This should not work," said Kexri, one of the younger Zephyrians. She watched Marcus connect a human-made circuit board directly to a cluster of living nerve fibers. "Metal and flesh are enemies." "Not enemies," Marcus said, as he carefully adjusted the connection. "Just different languages. We need to teach them to talk to each other." The breakthrough happened on the 20th day. Marcus was working deep inside the ship's core, trying to repair its main thinking center. The organic brain. Tissue was mostly dead. Normal Zephyrian methods would take months to regrow it. Marcus had a crazy idea. What if he could build a bridge between the dying organic brain and a human computer system? The computer could do the thinking while the organic parts healed, like using a crutch for a broken leg. He worked for 12 straight hours connecting fiber optic cables to nerve endings. He programmed a simple computer to translate between digital signals and bioelectrical impulses. It was messy and might not work at all. When he turned on the system, the ship's lights flickered. Then they went out completely. Marcus thought he had killed it, but then something amazing happened. The lights came back on, but brighter than before. The ship's walls began to pulse with stronger rhythms. All around them, systems that had been dead for weeks suddenly came back to life. "Impossible," whispered Veltar. Her colors cycled rapidly through amazement and disbelief. "The ship is thinking again. But how?" Marcus grinned with exhaustion and excitement. Human computer is doing the heavy thinking work. Ship's organic brain can focus on healing itself. They are working together. But the best part came 3 days later. Marcus was working on a minor repair when he felt something strange. He put his hand on the ship's wall, and suddenly he could sense its thoughts. Not words exactly, but feelings and images that made sense to him. The ship was grateful. It knew Marcus had saved its life. More than that, it liked him. The ship had accepted Marcus as part of its family in a way that usually only happened with Zephyrians. "This has never happened before," Veltar said with wonder. "Ship has bonded with you. Your genetic pattern is now in its memory core. It will remember you forever." Marcus felt proud but also worried. He did not understand what it meant to be bonded with a living ship. Would it expect things from him? Would it be sad when he was gone? He did not have time to think about it because word had spread. Other broken ships started arriving at his workshop. First came another Zephyrian vessel with similar problems, then a crystalline collective ship that thought in mathematics instead of words. After that, a hive mind transport where thousands of tiny aliens shared one big brain. Each ship brought new challenges. The crystalline ship's silicon-based computer had become depressed and refused to work. Marcus fixed it by building it a dream generator that let it imagine impossible mathematical equations while it slept. The hive mind ship had the opposite problem. Its shared consciousness had become too connected and was driving itself crazy with too many thoughts at once. Marcus built mental barriers that gave different sections of the mind some privacy from each other. Every success brought more customers. Aliens who had been turned away from every other repair shop heard about the human who could fix impossible problems. They came with ships held together by hope and desperation. Marcus's workshop became famous across 3 star systems. The miracle mechanic, they called him. Ships that other mechanics said were beyond repair left his workshop flying better than when they were new. But Marcus was starting to understand that he was not just fixing ships. Every repair meant families could be reunited. Every success meant refugees could reach safety. Every impossible problem he solved gave an entire species hope for the future. The Zephyrians started calling him something in their language that the translator could not handle properly. When Marcus asked what it meant, Veltar's colors showed. "Deep respect, bridge builder," she said. "You connect not just machine parts but different peoples. You make possible what others say cannot be done." As Marcus looked around his workshop filled with impossible ships from a dozen different species, he realized his life had changed completely. 3 weeks ago, he had been a lonely human fixing normal ships for normal money. Now he was something new entirely. He was becoming the bridge between worlds that had never talked to each other before. And somehow, that felt exactly right. 6 months after fixing his first Zephyrian ship, Marcus could not walk through Kepler Station without being stopped every few minutes. Aliens from dozens of different species would bow, shake his hand, or perform strange greeting rituals he did not understand. They all knew him as the human who performed miracles. His workshop had grown from a small garage to a complex of buildings. Each section was designed for different types of ships. The biotech bay for living vessels like the Zephyrians used, the crystal matrix lab for the silicon-based collective ships, the phase chamber for vessels that existed in multiple dimensions. At the same time, Marcus never planned for any of this to happen. Each new challenge had just appeared at his door, and he could not say no to people who needed help. Now his waiting list was 3 months long, and ships came from across the galaxy seeking his help. The morning started like any other. Marcus was working on a quantum weaver's ship that kept accidentally teleporting its crew to different time periods. The aliens inside aged backwards when this happened, which they found very embarrassing. The temporal stabilizers need to be synchronized with the crew's biological clocks, Marcus explained to his newest assistant, a young Zephyrian named Zektal. If we can make the ship recognize their life rhythms, it will stop jumping around. In time, Zektal took careful notes. Marcus now had 12 assistants from 8 different species. They came to learn his hybrid repair methods and stayed because the work was more exciting than anything else in the galaxy. The emergency alarm rang through the workshop. Marcus looked up to see a battered refugee transport limping toward his landing pad. The ship was so damaged that pieces of it fell off as it landed. Black smoke poured from every opening. A family of methane breathers stumbled out wearing emergency atmosphere suits. Their home planet had been destroyed by a solar flare, and they were trying to reach a colony world where others of their kind lived. But their ship was dying and no other mechanic would work on methane-based technology because it was too dangerous. Marcus spent the next 2 days building a completely new life support system that could handle their poisonous atmosphere, while keeping his human workers safe. He created separate air supplies and chemical barriers that let both species work together without dying. While he worked, more ships kept arriving. A diplomatic vessel from the peace negotiations treaty talks had broken down just before crucial meetings between 2 warring species. If the talks failed, millions would die in continued fighting. Marcus worked 48 hours straight to fix their translation systems and cultural interface computers. He had to learn enough about both alien cultures to make sure the ship could help them communicate without accidentally starting a war. The ship left just in time for the negotiations. 3 days later, Marcus received a message that peace had been achieved. The 2 species credited their successful talks to having proper translation technology that helped them understand each other. News of these successes spread faster than Marcus could keep up with. Every major news network in the galaxy ran stories about the miracle mechanic of Kepler Station. Some called him the most important human alive because of how many lives he had saved, but the attention brought problems too. Government officials from the Terran Authority started asking questions about how a simple mechanic had access to so much advanced alien technology. They worried that Marcus might be sharing human secrets with potential enemies. Inspector Williams arrived one morning with a team of investigators and a long list of regulations that Marcus might be violating. She was a thin woman with cold eyes who clearly thought Marcus was some kind of criminal. "Mr. Chen, you are required to register all alien technology modifications with the Terran Science Council," she said, while her team took pictures of everything in his workshop. "You are also required to submit samples of any new hybrid technologies for security evaluation." Marcus tried to explain that most of his techniques were unique to each specific ship and could not be copied. But Inspector Williams did not want to listen. She seemed to think he was building weapons or selling secrets to aliens. Before she could finish her investigation, something unexpected happened. Word spread through the alien community that human authorities were threatening Marcus. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Beltar arrived first with a full Zephyrian diplomatic delegation. Then came representatives from the Crystalline Collective, the Methane Breathers, the Quantum Weavers, and dozens of other species. They surrounded the inspector's team and politely but firmly demanded to know why humans were interfering with the bridge builder. "This human has saved more lives than your entire military," said Ambassador Krillex from the collective. His crystal body rang like bells when he was angry. "He has prevented wars, rescued refugees, and brought hope to species that had none. If you harm him, you make enemies of us all." Inspector Williams found herself facing an impromptu coalition of alien governments, all united in defense of one human mechanic. Some of these species had never agreed on anything before, but they all agreed that Marcus was too valuable to lose. The standoff lasted 3 days. During that time, Marcus kept working on the ships that needed his help. He could not let people suffer because of political problems he did not understand. On the 3rd day, a massive cargo hauler arrived carrying supplies for a distant colony that was running out of food. The ship's navigation computer had failed, and it was lost in space when Marcus's reputation reached them through emergency channels. Marcus fixed their navigation system in 6 hours. The grateful crew told everyone they met about how the human had saved their colony from starvation. More ships began arriving with similar stories. Inspector Williams finally realized she was fighting a losing battle. The alien testimonies made it clear that Marcus was not a security threat. He was exactly what he appeared to be, a mechanic, who could not turn away anyone who needed help. Before she left, Inspector Williams had one final conversation with Marcus. "I do not understand how you do what you do," she said, "but I can see that you have created something important here, something bigger than just fixing ships." Marcus looked around his workshop at the dozens of different species working together, sharing knowledge and helping each other solve impossible problems. "I never planned for any of this," he said honestly. "I just wanted to help people." "Well," Inspector Williams said with something that might have been a smile, "you succeeded, beyond anything anyone could have imagined." After the investigators left, Marcus received hundreds of messages from across the galaxy. Species he had never heard of were sending thanks for work he had done for other people. His reputation had grown so large that he had become a symbol of hope for anyone facing impossible problems. Veltar found him sitting quietly in his workshop that evening, looking overwhelmed by all the attention. "You did not ask for this responsibility," she said gently, "but you have become something the galaxy needs. You are proof that different peoples can work together to create miracles." Marcus nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand that he was no longer just Marcus Chen, mechanic. He had become something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. And somehow, that did not frighten him as much as it should have. Marcus first noticed something was different when he tried to take a vacation. He had been working non-stop for 8 months, and his human doctor said he needed rest before his body gave out. Marcus planned a simple trip to Earth to visit his sister and see his old hometown. He packed his bags and bought a ticket on a passenger liner leaving the next morning. But that night, an emergency call came in. A Generation ship carrying 200,000 refugees had suffered catastrophic engine failure. Just outside the system, they had maybe 6 hours before life support failed completely. Marcus unpacked his bags and spent the next 3 days building a portable fusion reactor that could keep the massive ship alive until proper repairs could be made. The refugees were saved, but his vacation was canceled. 2 weeks later, he tried again. This time, he made it all the way to the spaceport before another crisis hit. A diplomatic vessel carrying peace negotiators between 2 warring species had broken down in deep space. Without those negotiations, a war that had been paused for months would restart, killing millions. Marcus missed his flight fixing their quantum communication array. The negotiations succeeded, and war was avoided, but he never made it to Earth. TUIA's 3rd time he tried to leave, Marcus began to suspect something strange was happening. He kept his travel plans completely secret, told no one where he was going or when, but somehow, exactly 4 hours before his scheduled departure, a dying colony ship arrived with a plague spreading through their biological systems. Marcus spent 2 weeks creating hybrid medical equipment that could treat 17 different alien species at once. The plague was stopped and thousands of lives were saved. But Marcus started to wonder if these emergencies were really just coincidence. He asked Veltar to meet him privately in his office. She'd become not just his first alien friend, but also his unofficial advisor on the complex politics of his growing influence. "I think someone is watching my travel plans," Marcus said carefully. "Every time I try to leave the station, something happens that only I can fix." Veltar's color shifted through several emotions before settling on embarrassed yellow. "Marcus, there is something we must discuss, something that perhaps we should have told you sooner." She explained that word of Marcus's attempted departures spread quickly through the refugee communities. Not because anyone was spying on him, but because the aliens had developed an informal network to keep track of their most important resource, him. "We do not mean to trap you," Veltar said quickly. "But your leaving, even for a short time, makes many people very afraid. What if emergency happens and you are not here? What if someone dies because Bridge Builder was away?" Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you saying people are deliberately creating emergencies to keep me here?" "Not creating," Veltar assured him. "Emergencies are real. But maybe timing of when people ask for help is influenced by knowing you might leave." Over the next few days, Marcus paid more attention to the patterns around him. He noticed that his alien assistants always seemed to know when he was feeling restless or homesick. He saw how quickly word spread through the station whenever he mentioned needing a break. The truth was more complex and more troubling than simple conspiracy. The refugee communities had unconsciously organized themselves around him. They had made him the irreplaceable center of their universe without meaning to do it. The Zephyrians had built their new colony directly around his workshop complex. They said it was for convenience, but Marcus realized it also meant he could never expand or move without displacing thousands of people. The Crystalline Collective had established their data processing center next to his phase lab. They claimed the proximity improved their calculations, but it also meant their entire economy now depended on his continued presence. Dozens of other species had similar arrangements. They had built homes, businesses, and entire community structures, based on the assumption that Marcus would always be there to solve their problems. Marcus felt trapped, but not by walls or guards. He was trapped by the genuine love and dependence of people who saw him as their savior. How could he leave when his absence might mean death for people who trusted him? The crisis came when Marcus tried to test their reactions. He announced that he was planning a month-long trip to attend an engineering conference on Mars. It was a lie, but he wanted to see what would happen. The response was immediate and heartbreaking. Elderly Zephyrians who had survived the destruction of their homeworld began developing stress illnesses. Young aliens who had never known any life except the one built around Marcus's workshop showed signs of panic and depression. Representatives from a dozen species requested emergency meetings. They offered him everything they had: payment, honors, even marriage arrangements with their daughters, anything to convince him to stay. "You do not understand," said Kexri, now a senior member of the Zephyrian Community Council. "Before you we were scattered, desperate, dying. You gave us hope. You gave us home. Without you we are lost again." Marcus canceled his fake trip announcement, but the damage was done. He now understood the true scope of what he had created. These people did not just respect him or appreciate his work. They had built their entire sense of security around his presence. That night, Marcus sat alone in his workshop surrounded by the impossible machines he had learned to fix. Through the windows, he could see the lights of the alien district that had grown up around him. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy living together in peace because they all shared one thing in common. They all believed Marcus would always be there to protect them. Veltar found him there hours later, staring out at the community he had accidentally created. "Are you angry with us?" she asked quietly. Marcus thought about it for a long time before answering. "No," he said finally, "but I am scared. What happens if I get sick? What happens if I die? What happens to all these people if something happens to me?" "Then we learn to be strong without you," Veltar said, "but until that day comes, we need you to be strong with us." Marcus nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand that his choice was not really about whether to stay or go. It was about what kind of person he wanted to be. The kind who walked away when people needed him, or the kind who found a way to build something that could survive without him. He looked around his workshop one more time and made his decision. He would stay, but he would also start training others to do what he did. He would build not just bridges between species, but bridges between the present and a future where his community could stand on its own. It would take time, but Marcus had learned that the most important repairs always did. The crisis that would change everything started with a simple message on Marcus's communication screen. The sender was Admiral Voss from the Galactic Trade Consortium, and the message was polite but threatening in the way that only government officials could manage. Mr. Chen, the consortium has received multiple complaints about the unauthorized settlement activities on Kepler Station. We will be conducting a full inspection and relocation assessment starting next week. Please, prepare all documentation for review. Marcus stared at the message for a long time. He knew this day would come eventually. The alien district around his workshop had grown so large that it was now bigger than the original human sections of the station. Thousands of refugees from dozens of species had made permanent homes here, and bureaucrats somewhere had decided this was a problem. Beltar arrived within an hour of the message being sent. Her colors showed deep worry mixed with determination. Marcus, the community councils have been meeting all morning. We want to fight this. Fight how? Marcus asked. We do not have legal rights to be here. Most of the people living here are still officially classified as temporary refugees. We have you, Beltar said simply. The most famous human in the galaxy. If they try to move us, the whole galaxy will hear about it. But Marcus had learned enough about politics to know that fame was not the same as power. The Trade Consortium controlled shipping routes and commercial licenses across half the galaxy. They could make life very difficult for anyone who opposed them, even famous mechanics. The inspection team arrived exactly 1 week later. 20 officials in expensive suits walked through the alien district with scanners and tablets, documenting every violation of station regulations they could find. And there were many violations. Zephyrian biostructures had grown beyond their permitted boundaries. Crystalline matrix buildings violated height restrictions. The methane breathers had built atmospheric processors that were not up to code. Every species had adapted the station to meet their needs, and almost none of it was officially legal. Admiral Voss was a tall man with gray hair and the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. He met with Marcus in the station administrator's office, surrounded by thick legal documents and enforcement orders. Mr. Chen, I want you to understand that we have nothing against you personally, the Admiral said. Your humanitarian work is admirable. But Kepler Station was never designed to support this kind of population. The infrastructure is overloaded, safety systems are compromised, and frankly, this concentration of alien refugees represents a security risk. Marcus had expected this argument. What kind of security risk? Uncontrolled alien technology sharing, potential for foreign government infiltration, economic disruption to established trade routes. The Admiral rattled off the concerns like he was reading from a script. We have received complaints from several member worlds about unfair competition from your hybrid technologies. That was the real issue, Marcus realized. His repair techniques had become so successful that traditional manufacturers and repair companies were losing business. Politics and money like always. What are you proposing? Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew. Voluntary relocation of all non-essential alien populations to designated refugee processing centers. Your workshop can remain operational, under consortium oversight with appropriate technology sharing agreements. Everyone benefits. Marcus looked out the window at the bustling alien district. Children from a dozen species played together in the parks. Families who had lost everything had rebuilt their lives here. Scientists and engineers from across the galaxy worked together on projects that would have been impossible anywhere else. And if we refuse? Admiral Voss's smile got colder. Then relocation becomes mandatory under Trade Consortium Emergency Authority. I hope it does not come to that. That night, Marcus called an emergency meeting of all the community leaders. Representatives from 37 different species crowded into his main workshop bay. The air was thick with tension and the mixed atmospheres that different aliens needed to breathe. They want to break us apart, Marcus said simply. Send everyone to different refugee camps where you can be processed and controlled. The response was immediate and angry. Voices rose in dozens of languages as the translator systems worked. Over time, some wanted to fight, others wanted to hide. A few suggested leaving the station entirely to find somewhere else to build their community. But it was young Zektol who asked the most important question. Marcus, what do you want to do? Marcus had been thinking about this all day. He could probably negotiate a deal to save his workshop. The consortium needed his skills too much to shut him down completely. But his workshop meant nothing without the community that had grown around it. "I want to make this legal," Marcus said. "I want to turn what we have built into something official that no one can take away." Ambassador Krillex from the Crystalline Collective rang his agreement. "Explain your thinking, Bridge Builder." Marcus activated the main display screen and showed them a proposal he had been working on for months, ever since he realized how big their community had become. "The Kepler Integration Project," he said. "The first official multi-species refugee assistance and technological development center in the galaxy. Instead of hiding what we do here, we make it the example for how different species can work together." The proposal was ambitious beyond anything anyone had attempted before. It would transform Kepler Station into an official diplomatic and scientific hub. The refugee communities would become permanent research colonies. Marcus's hybrid technologies would be shared freely with any species that needed them. "The consortium wants control over our technology," Marcus continued. "Fine. We give them something better. We give them a whole new model for how galactic civilization could work." The debate went on for hours. Some thought the plan was too risky. Others worried that making their community official would ruin what made it special. But gradually a consensus emerged. 3 months later, Admiral Voss returned to Kepler Station for the official opening ceremony of the Galactic Integration Institute. Marcus stood on the platform wearing the formal robes of his new position. As Director of Cross-Species Technologies, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. Some brought refugees seeking help. Others carried diplomats wanting to study their integration methods. Many brought scientists and engineers eager to learn hybrid technologies that were revolutionizing industries throughout known space. The ceremony was broadcast live across the EU galaxy. Thousands of species watched as the old refugee district was officially renamed the Integration Quarters, now serving as the most advanced multicultural research facility in known space. After the speeches and celebrations ended, Marcus found himself alone in his original workshop. Most of his equipment had been moved to newer, larger facilities, but he kept this space as his private retreat. Veltar found him there, looking through old photos of the early days when it was just him and a few desperate aliens trying to fix impossible problems. "Do you miss the simple times?" she asked. Marcus thought about it. The early days had been easier in some ways. Fewer responsibilities, fewer people depending on him, fewer political complications. But they had also been lonelier. "No," he said finally. "This is better. What we built here is bigger than anything I could have imagined." As if to prove his point, an alert chimed on his communication panel. A deep space exploration vessel had discovered a new species on the edge of known space. They were refugees from a cosmic disaster, and their technology was completely unlike anything anyone had ever seen. "They are requesting permission to dock," the message said. They specifically asked for the bridge builder. Marcus smiled and activated his response beacon. "Permission granted, welcome to Kepler Station." Outside his window, the lights of a dozen different alien districts twinkled in the darkness of space. Children who would grow up speaking 5 languages ran through parks where their grandparents would have been enemies. Scientists worked on projects that combined the best ideas from countless worlds. Marcus had saved them, and in return they had saved him. Not from danger or death, but from the loneliness of being the only one of his kind. Now he was part of something larger, something that would continue long after he was gone. The communication panel chimed again. Another ship requesting help. Another impossible problem to solve. Another chance to build bridges between worlds that had never imagined they could work together. Marcus got to work. After all, he had a galaxy to help.